Hello and welcome to Season 5, Episode 12 of Logicast, the AWS News podcast brought to you by Logicata. I'm Carl Robinson, CEO and co-founder of Logicata, and I'm joined today, as always, by regular swag clasher and principal cloud engineer, John Goodall. How are you doing today, John? We're not actually clashing on the swag today. But
No, we're not.
I don't know why that sprang into my mind. So,
yeah, because I mean, you have this shirt too, I think.
Yeah, and you have this shirt too, so that's why we regularly clash. But, you know, we each have our own shirt. It's not like we swap clothes or anything like that. That'd be weird, but yeah.
No, I'm also a full size bigger than you, I think.
That's true. Yeah, be a bit loose on me. So.
Oh, I'm okay. My foot smells funny right now.
Ooh. And thank God it's not smelly vision that we're broadcasting in. So.
No, it's sort of menthol. I don't know if you've ever used it because, I mean, you're an old man and you do cycling and things. You probably hurt yourself quite regularly. I'm currently chasing tendon and joint injuries around my foot, so the Tiger Balm has been liberally applied to my foot, and it's sort of menthol-ish and local analgesic and all the rest of it. It's really good. I can walk around on it; it's absolutely fine. But my my foot smells a bit iffy, and it's more tape than skin right now. So that's fun.
Well, it wasn't what I had in mind when you first said that your foot smelled. I was thinking something, Tiger Balm's reasonably pleasant. An aroma, but anyway,
I mean, it depends.
I'm not sure we should go too far down this line of conversation anyway, because
would you say we put our foot in it?
Well, if we do carry on, we will definitely be going in with both feet. Yeah. So let's take this opportunity to introduce today's guest, who is fellow AWS community builder Farah Abdirahman. How are you doing today, Farah?
I'm doing good, guys. Thank you guys for hosting me.
Good. I noticed you're blowing your nose a little bit there, though. So is it a bit of a seasonal cold going on there?
Yeah, it's the spring allergies. It's been roaming around the whole state, man. Everyone is having it. Yeah, I've been running almost the whole week.
Probably the smell of John's foot could clear your sinuses. We're not in the same room, so. But as I say, we're trying to move on from that topic of conversation. So tell us a little bit, Farah, about what you do.
Stepped right into it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, here we go. All the foot puns are going to come out now. So
just sidestep quickly.
Oh, dear. Yeah. Tell us a little bit, Farah, about what you do for the community, what you do for a living.
So, I'm a recent graduate. I became a community builder while I was still in college. Okay. And I love teaching, sharing content and knowledge, and talking about new technologies. And lucky enough, I was able to go to reInvent last year. It was it was nice. I saw one of your episodes. You were wearing, I don't know if it's you or John was wearing the swag last year that Jason gave us.
We've probably both got the same one, but
what I do for the community mostly is I recently came to America. I've been here for 9 months. I was in Kenya. I was part of the user group team back at home in Nairobi. Fun fact, last year we hosted a community day, and guess who was a keynote speaker?
Oh, was that Jason Dunn went there, or
no?
Jeff.
Jeff Barr?
Higher.
Higher than Jeff. That's
higher than Jeff.
Yeah.
Werner Vogels.
You had Werner.
You had Werner Vogels. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, okay. He was funny enough. He was actually coming to Africa to do his Africa tour.
Yeah.
And he noticed that we were having an AWS community day. It was June, and then he told his team, organize my trip around the community day. And I realized he loves the community, Vaughn. And we were all of us were shocked that he wanted to come and join us. So he came and he did our keynote, and we were like, it was amazing. He was he's the top person. It was nice. I when I was in college, I created the AWS community in our school. And funny enough, the main reason why I joined the AWS community is I first of all applied to be a Cloud Club captain, and I was rejected. And then when they rejected me, I was like, oh, okay, you guys rejected me. I can build the community on my own without you guys. So I did it, and and when I built the community, and it became a community builder. And yeah, long story short, I think this journey started from a rejection. Yeah, right now, I
Well,
came to
yeah.
America. Still trying to settle in, looking for opportunities. But yeah, I love the community. It's the best. It's the best part of AWS, I think.
Well, that's a great way to integrate as well, because obviously there are user groups all over the world. I'm sure there is one in Minneapolis where you're based.
Yes.
And if there isn't, I'm sure you can set one up, but I'm sure there's probably one there already. So it's a great way
Yeah.
to integrate with the community and build your profile. So no, that's really cool. I didn't know that Werner had done that. Perhaps he did that because he was able to get his entire Africa trip on expenses. I don't know. I hope I'm not. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, that's quite a coup that you managed to get him as a keynote speaker at your community day. And I was going to ask you about Cloud Club, actually, if that's how you got into it. But yeah, rejections are just learning experiences, aren't they? I actually got rejected for year 2 of the Community Builder program. I'm now in year 3, but I had to do year 1 twice because my renewal application was rejected after the first year. And I thought, well, okay, it says you can reapply if you want. So I reapplied with some different content and some different words in my summaries, and got accepted back in. And that reminds me, I do actually need to do my renewal.
Yeah, I haven't done mine
year
either
4
yet.
So
Me too.
so that's coming up for all of us.
We've got about another 5 weeks, and I'm
that's
procrastinating it horribly.
That's way too far off for me to be.
I know.
Motivated by it. I need like a 24-hour deadline, and then that'll get me motivated to get the thing done. But anyway, no, that's great. It's great.
Full of people with neurodivergence, isn't it? It's a community full of people that are just, I'll do it about 10 minutes before.
Well, it's not just the community. That's just tech in general, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. That's just tech in general. So yeah, but anyway, no, it's really great to hear about your community journey there, Farah. Sounds fantastic. So thank you for sharing that with us. But as regular listeners to the podcast will know, we often do talk about AWS community. We rarely talk about the smell of John's feet on the podcast, because what we're actually here to talk about is AWS news, hence the title of the podcast. Once a week, I curate a list of AWS news, which I share via my weekly AWS News Roundup newsletter, and then John picks a selection of the articles that we'd like to discuss with our guest. So we do, of course, have such a selection of articles this week to discuss with John and Farah. The first of those is an article, it's a feature announcement on Amazon.com. And the title is Amazon S3 introduces account regional namespaces for general purpose buckets. So, John, what was it that caught your eye about this? We got S3 a couple of times, and the other article is much more eye-catching. This one, not so for me, but I guess you saw something in it.
Because you clearly don't understand the power of this. This is massive. It's 3 paragraphs that really belie how much of a change this is to just daily life working within the S3 service. So up until, this is about the 12th of March, this was posted. So because of recording lag and kind of, we're about 2 weeks behind on this one. Up until about 2 weeks ago, S3 buckets had to be globally unique in terms of their names, right? That was just the way the service operated. You had hard boundaries between S3 buckets. So the fact that they kind of all lived with each other didn't really make a difference, right? But you could not share a name with anybody. They were globally addressable, didn't matter. They still lived in regions, but if you went into the console, you could sort of put a bucket in a certain region, and then if you sort of saw them all listed next to each other, it said what region they were in, because it's a global but kind of not service, right? They've got to live somewhere, and you kind of say where you want them to live, and they're semi-regional on the basis that some things need the buckets to be in the same region as them. Fine, okay. But none of that mattered. You couldn't just have Logicarta dev, for argument's sake, or Carl dev or test or whatever, because someone else had probably taken that already. And things like test and what have you been kind of centrally reserved to stop people from using them. And the fact that they were also globally addressable was the source of a number of misconfigurations and attacks along those vectors, right? Because you could just, with the right permissions, you could kind of enumerate buckets because they were just globally addressable. And if you were using kind of silly bucket names, you could just find them. You could just look them up, which again is not great. So you ended up following the sorts of patterns that I followed, which is you'd put the account number in the bucket, and that's not a secure value, but it's something more identifiable. It's not going to have been used. You put, I don't know, company dash environment dash thing that it's supporting dash account number or something, and you end up with these ridiculously big bucket names, or you let your tool make the name for you and you end up with these Terraform auto-generated names that are just enormous strings of TF dash blah 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 blah, and they're useless, right? They're impossible to work out what's going on. That problem has been solved now because S3 can create general purpose buckets in a reserved namespace. What that means is it's no longer having to be globally unique. And
so I can have more Carl's test buckets now, can I?
If so long as you put it in a different account, yeah, you can have Carl test in as many accounts as you like.
Nice.
Yeah,
sounds good. Well, I guess Ryan Kroonenberg is going to have to update his training materials from the old solutions architect associate training on a Cloud Guru, because I remember the whole global namespace thing from back in the day when I was first doing that certification.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this, Farah? What are your thoughts on this, Farah?
It's like when you look at it, it's just a very short blog, right? It doesn't have a lot of things, but the implication, like John said, is big. Because the first thing when you get into cloud, one of the first things you learn is S3. And the first thing that you encounter is that thing that it has to be unique, right? You just, whether you're fresh, someone who's just learning cloud, or you're someone who's experienced in or you're an organization, like it was something that it was really, you had to, like John said that he used to put account numbers. So for me, I used to like put random numbers or different symbols, or you have to come up with a very weird name. And like there's usually standards when you're trying to have variables in it, to maybe, like, let's say you're training something for, let me give you an example. Let's say you're training something for trade, right? You say this is a trade sequence bucket. 100% that someone already has put that name right over there. So you can't put that. So you have to add trade sequence bucket 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, and in your Terraform files, in whatever, it just becomes so weird, and it was like a big blocker. And right now you can just, whether John has it, I have it, you have it, as long as a different account, it's something that really, really helps. And I think it's really, really cool that they really removed that hassle, and it took them long enough. That's all I can say. It took them long enough.
It took them 20 years, but we'll come on to that on a later article. Well, there we go. So exciting news for this new S3 feature, opening up more possibilities around bucket names. I don't know if Carl's test bucket still exists. If you've used a name and the bucket's no longer there, does it still exist? Is it still no longer available to someone else?
They're kind of still taken. So if you've used a bucket and then you delete the bucket, the name is still, previously, this doesn't apply anymore, was still taken, but it did eventually cycle out. I don't think it was immediate, but they did eventually cycle out.
I think it took time. Yeah, it took time, like 30 days, I think. I don't know. I'm not sure, but like
potentially, yeah. I've seen them come down in minutes. I've seen them take months. So it's
Well, I'm going back about 8 or 9 years now, so it's probably gone. Unless I forgot to delete it. But then, I don't think I'm getting any bills anywhere. So hopefully I'm not racking up a big debt to AWS with a monthly fee for a bucket that I've forgotten about. Anyway, on that note, let's move along to our second article for this week. This is an article on the AWS security blog about how you can deploy AWS applications and access AWS accounts across multiple regions with IAM Identity Center. So, John, IAM IDC, as it's known, SSO, as it used to be known, and is still known in some parts of IAM IDC. What are your thoughts on this one?
I mean, for starters, I wanted to have that particular whinge, right? It got renamed from AWS SSO, and that made sense, right? Because single sign-on, wonderful, to IAM Identity Center, brackets, formerly SSO. But then if you have to go and do permissions for that service within IAM itself, the permissions are still SSO and SSO directory for the bit that contains users, which, okay, I get that that's hard, but you've changed a service name. Okay, that's just frustrating. This article it's something that I need to play with a bit more, if I'm really honest, because we use IDC for our landings and deployments, right? But that's just for access to AWS accounts and single region. Multi-region is recent, and the idea is you can now do multi-region replication, so that if you put it in US East 1 and the IDC service within US East 1 has gone down, you could then log in via Stockholm, for argument's sake, because you've replicated it across. And that reduces the need for break glass setups through like federated IAM and these old-fashioned, well, we've got this one IAM user that we know is a risk, but we need to keep it in place in case the IDC service goes down in the region that we use it, because we can't put it anywhere else. You don't need to do that anymore. So this is something that we need to be thinking about from a product perspective, and that I need to be playing more with, because whilst we don't deploy massive numbers of landing zones, we do it often enough that we have opinions about these sorts of things and we manage them for people. So this is something that we need to be thinking about. The other thing that I'm really interested in, again, from a product perspective, is we don't really use IAM IDC as a way of controlling access to applications, because we don't do a huge amount of that, but we're starting to. So we're starting to do that sort of thing. I'm certainly starting to build those sorts of things, internal proof of concepts and what have you, and new products that we're looking at. And the idea of, well, you can actually just use AWS because you're deploying these things into AWS anyway. So you can just access the application through AWS IDC, and you can now do that multi-region as well, is great. It's really interesting concept. The idea that, you can go, and they actually use Frankfurt as their backup region. But the idea is, as I say, you can do it in a couple of different places. It's now fully encrypted as well through KMS. So that's all encrypted at rest, which is great. Multiple regions is good. We like all of these bits and pieces. And it does also say that, by the way, you can then do federated through things like Okta and Auth0 and all these other things. So you don't have to use IDC as an IDP to use IDC. This is why it's confusing. It should still be called SSO. But you don't have to use AWS's identity provider to use Identity Center. You can use another one. So you can use Okta or whoever, but they use Okta, for example.
Don't you have to? Under the prerequisites, it says you must be using an organization instance of IDC connected to an external IDP, such as Okta or Microsoft Entra ID. It's the penultimate bullet point in the prerequisites and considerations.
That would help if I read the whole article. I've been open about this before, that I don't really read these. Multi-region support. Yeah. Okay. That kind of makes sense, to be really honest, so that you are then able to, because you've got it external, you're then sort of de-risking a little bit, but then you are somewhat reliant on the external provider being HA, moving some eggs around, I suppose.
What are your thoughts on this, Farah?
I think, this actually helps big organizations which utilizes IDC that much and have different accounts. And the thing is, I saw that was like, some organization use Active Directory, and I was like, what about those kind of organizations which uses that? How are they going to be implemented? And the thing that you just mentioned about external providers, I think it's something that's going to help in case maybe one region fails, and you can be able to have your multi-region, which is really cool. But I think for me, I haven't played around with it that much, since most of the things I built is individually. But when I used to work at an organization, I think we did use Identity Center, but I don't have that much knowledge on security that much. Yeah, that's my 2 cents. But like I checked the part where they say Microsoft Active Directory and Identity Directory as identity source aren't supported for multi-region replication. I think that can be a hindrance for some company. I don't know. What do you guys think?
On-prem AD, it's a little bit old hat at this point. I wouldn't be surprised that lots of companies are still going to be using it. Entra being what used to be called Azure Active Directory,
Active Directory, yeah,
version, that is supported, but on-prem AD isn't, which I'm not terribly surprised by, if I'm honest.
Use an on-prem IDP to control your cloud identities. It's a bit backwards, isn't it?
Yeah.
John, you mentioned using it for application access. Why would you do that versus using Cognito for that, for example?
Different things. They're kind of a different thing. So Cognito is an interesting service. It used to be incredibly bad, and it's okay now. The idea with Cognito is you can do two things through user pools and identity pools. User pools are a way of saying this person is Carl, and therefore we know who they are, and then you get your token and you can kind of log in. Identity pools is this is Carl, and Carl is allowed to use SQS within AWS, right? And they can get in and use that service directly because it's a way of basically giving external people permissions without having to put APIs and things in the way and build lots of code effectively. SSO, as I'm going to call it, because I prefer that, and that's still burned into my brain. It gives you this sort of single login view. So let's say you've got access to a handful of AWS accounts and your company's hosting applications on AWS as well for internal reasons. Yeah, because that's the thing. You'll look at your backup compliance and you might have built a dashboard for that. You log in the one place. It's all the same login. So you can use your credentials to get into the accounts to do your development work, and you can use your credentials to get into the application that they've hosted to look at the status of production backups, because you also have to worry about those. That's why you'd use it.
Cool. Sounds good to me. Well, on that note, let's move along to our third article for this week. And this is scrolled down on my screen, so I can't read the title. I'll scroll up again. This is an article on the AWS Artificial Intelligence blog about how AWS and Nvidia have deepened their strategic collaboration to accelerate AI from pilot to production. So basically, we've spoken about this kind of money circulating around between a number of big companies in the US before. And I think what this boils down to is AWS are going to deploy at least 1 million Nvidia chips in their AWS regions this year to accelerate AI deployment. So, John, I think I know your thoughts on this already because we've spoken about it before, but does this prompt any additional thoughts to the ones that we've heard before?
I can't hear the word. I'm such a broken brain millennial. I can't hear the word 1 million without doing the Dr. Evil thing.
Yeah.
I can't not do it. It's Gen Z don't know brain rot. We've got all the good brain rot. Yeah, I don't have any kind of additional thoughts on this in terms of deepening the partnership, because that's such a business buzzword nonsense to me. We're going to deepen our partnership. We're going to give each other increasingly big piles of money.
Yep.
That's all this is, right? That's all this is. We're going to invent some money to buy some things from them, and then they're going to give us the money back because we're going to get some of their stock. Or I don't understand how any of this works. And it's just, it's increasingly big piles of money just moving around that aren't really moving around. I do think this is really interesting, though, that they are going even further down the rabbit hole with NVIDIA when they spent years and years and years building and refining and selling their own chipsets for these, like Trainium, Inferentia, the various other silly names that they've come up with over the years. And it's kind of, okay, are you admitting that you can't build chips fast enough? Are you saying that your chips aren't good enough? I know the official answer. It's about customer choice and people can run things where they want. That'll be the official answer, right? But the practical answer will be something else, because there will always be a practical answer behind it. And genuinely, I think it's because Amazon can't do either of these things. They can't keep up with NVIDIA in terms of innovation because they're trying to innovate on so many other different fronts. Fine, I can accept that. And they can't keep up with NVIDIA in terms of production volumes because both of them are fabless, right? So they are both relying on probably either Samsung Foundries or Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, TSMC, to build these things for them, because those are the only two fabs in creation as far as I know. Intel, I think, might be building their own fab production system, but they're not going to be building ARM chips. They're just not, right? So the only two people building ARM chips are going to be Samsung Foundries and TSMC. And they will have limited production capacity. These are massive, massive companies, but they have limited production capacity. What I find really interesting about this whole thing going on right now, it's not necessarily this article, it's more of a jumping off point, is if you look at the profit announcements from companies like this, NVIDIA posted record-breaking profits, massive revenue, and their stock, you'd expect stock prices on that kind of announcement to just go poof, yeah? Didn't move. It went up 1%. It seems that the markets now expect NVIDIA to grow ridiculously and print money hand over fist. And the fact that they announced that they were doing that the last quarter, and their stock, I think it went down 1% or it went up 1%. It basically didn't move. because nobody cares, right? This is becoming the expectation that Nvidia is going to have ridiculous growth and they're just going to be taking money from people. So this announcement, again, I expect what we're going to see is Amazon is going to buy even more stuff from Nvidia, and Nvidia's stock, which you would historically have expected to take a nice bump from that sort of announcement, ain't gonna move.
They've also, as I just noticed in the article, offering expanded NVIDIA Nemotron model support on Amazon Bedrock. So didn't realize NVIDIA had their own models prior to reading this article. Did you ever come across the Nemotron models?
Is it Nemotron or Nemotron?
I don't know. Is it NVIDIA or NVIDIA? I've heard people say NVIDIA, which always makes me go a bit.
No, that's wrong. It is NVIDIA. Yeah. It's NVIDIA. So far as I've never heard Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, actually say the name, because I never watch any of their product announcements but I just have to work out how he pronounces it.
Yeah, well, I don't know. And I think we've lost Farah for the time being. His face is still frozen on the video stream, but he's actually disappeared from the studio. So whatever laptop issues were plaguing him prior to us starting the recording seem to be continuing to plague him. So hopefully...
getting very still.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, pensive look there. But hopefully he'll manage a quick reboot and rejoin us shortly. So let's move on from the discussion about NVIDIA Nemotron models, or however you'd like to say those two particular words, to the celebration of 20 years of Amazon S3. So we alluded to this with our initial article about S3. There we go. We haven't seen one of those for a while. For anyone who's listening to John is doing his Apple reactions again on the video stream. So you can check that out on our YouTube channel. That one's not working for some reason, but there we go. Fireworks for the 20 years of Amazon S3.
There's one more. Hang on, I'll get another one out there. So I'll get one shot. Yay! Confetti.
Oh, there we go. A bit of confetti, for the listeners, so that they can imagine what this might look like. And a bit of love for S3. Perhaps is going to come out from that one. Yeah, there we go. I think have you exhausted all the Apple reactions yet? Maybe there's some new ones that we don't know about. We haven't looked at them for a while. So
let's do the Gen Z heart instead. Let's see if that works.
Yeah. I don't know.
I can't. My fingers don't do that.
Apparently not. No, apparently not. Anyway, let's move on from Apple reactions to celebrating 20 years of Amazon S3 and building what's next. So we've already talked about some of the things that are coming next, which is the regional account namespaces at the top of the podcast. But let's start with some big numbers, shall we? We like big numbers.
We do like big numbers.
Yeah.
The big number for me from S3, 20 years is not a big number, but it was the second ever AWS service, right? It wasn't the first. SQS came before it. SQS actually came before AWS as a platform existed, but I think S3 was the first sort of platform service, as it were, that kind of came with it. Wonderful. The big number for me is the 11 nines of durability, right? That, it's hard to put into perspective what that actually means, and they don't really say in the article, but the last time I looked this up, it was something like you'd store a gigabyte for 1,000 years. No, you'd store a terabyte for 1,000 years and you might lose a gigabyte of that. Like, what? That's just obtuse. Okay, it doesn't have any massive availability SLAs. That's only 4 nines. I say only. That's 4 minutes a month of downtime. That's still quite impressive for a service of this scale. But the 11 nines of durability is just bonkers. Basically, it means that you can put things in S3 and stop worrying about them for all intents and purposes. S3 is not a backup, but everything that actually stores data in AWS stores it in S3. So, it may as well be.
So I've just Googled it, and basically what it means is if you store 10 million objects, you can expect to lose roughly one every 10,000 years. It is pretty crazy. Although I would argue that 11 nines is not a big number. It's a relatively small number with a lot of decimal places compared to some of the other big numbers in the article.
Quite a long number.
It's long, yes, but it's just a big number with
is long big?
Ever decreasing decimal spaces. So it's long, exactly. Yeah, if I had a comma, it would be big, but I think because it's a decimal point, it's quite small compared.
It's one of those mathematically approaching infinity type deals, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, and then it goes on to say that it implies 0.001 0.00000000001% data loss per year. I don't know if I said enough zeros there, but I think it's probably 11 zeros, isn't it?
It'll be 9 zeros. It'd be 9 zeros
yeah.
because the first two nines are the 99 bit.
Yeah. Well, there we go. So that's an equally impressive number, but even much, much smaller. So let's look at some of the bigger ones. Some of the big numbers in S3. 500 trillion plus objects stored. I assume that's what the T stands for. I can't think of anything else that the T might stand for after the 500.
It's trillion. Yeah.
1 quadrillion requests per year.
Quadrillion or quintillion?
Don't know, but both of them are very big.
Yeah, because quadrillion being 4, quintillion being 5. So
yeah, probably. Yeah, I don't know which one it is.
It's a lot.
Yeah. And then what else have we got? $6 billion plus saved with S3 intelligent tiering.
I don't like that metric. I don't because that's basically admitting to people we could have taken $6 billion more than we did.
Yeah, I bet somebody's annoyed about that particular feature that they generated. If you had invented that, we'd be $6 billion richer. Although in the grand scheme of things, over the last 20 years, that's a drop in the ocean in Amazon revenue terms. So 150 petabytes of data replicated each week.
Yeah, that speaks to the scale of the ingest because they're replicating around AZs and regions, right? So that speaks to the level of ingest that S3 is getting. That's ridiculous.
200 million plus requests per second.
They saw 200 million and went, 202 doesn't sound great. More than 200 million is a better number for a graphic.
What does a request cost? Because we can probably work out from that, how much they're making just on S3 requests alone by extrapolating that forward.
I don't know. It depends on what the request is because like gets and puts cost one thing, but deletes cost a different thing. I think they're different kind of numbers. So I don't know, but it's not huge amounts. But again, they could be making a lot on requests.
Hey, Farah, welcome. We're glad you rejoined us. So we're just talking big numbers on Amazon S3. We've talked about the 11 nines of durability and various, the amount of data stored, etc. We were just on requests, 200 million requests per second. We were just speculating how much money that makes Amazon. 20th anniversary of S3. So thoughts about S3 from your side, Farah? Sorry to put you on the spot there, but
no worries. I think sorry about that. Turns out my internet failed me, so I had to get back up on my phone. But I think I call S3 the Amazon's golden boy, right?
Yep.
Because it was the start of everything right now. We were talking about previously about the Nvidia and AWS partnership, and I think it's just about Amazon realizing that they can't do it themselves. It's like if they could, they could have done it, and they wouldn't have partnered with Nvidia. But Nvidia have strategically put themselves in a position whereby they are the expert in it, and all the other companies are like, let's try it, and but they say, it's not the best as Nvidia. So, so S3, I think it's amazing how they were able to reach the 11 nines durability. I saw a blog from I think it was the VP of S3. I can't remember, but how the teams every single day, work on it, trying to ensure that level of durability and availability is actually there. It's crazy. Like, I don't think any other services can be able to reach it. And I think they can go more than 200. Is it 200 million?
Requests per second, I think, is the
is the one right
on the infographic. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that their aim is at 1 billion, and they can do it. I think it's crazy to even say that, but I think they can be able to do it. And I think S3 was the platform for what AWS is right now. And Jeff Barr, when I met him in reInvent, and there's a picture he took with the S3 bucket, and I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure when he sits down and think, like I'm pretty sure he sits down and think and remembers like when they were in that room thinking about launching it and like where it is right now, I think he and the team are like sitting down like this. He, Van, and the team are like, wow, we really did take a bet and it actually worked out. Because in another world, it could have failed and AWS would have been there.
Absolutely, yeah. In a parallel universe,
In the multiverse,
without S3, yeah. But it's still evolving. So it's 20 years old. It's still evolving. Are you allowed to talk about the announcement you heard yesterday, John? Did that go GA
No.
yet, or has that not happened yet? Okay, so that's still
No,
embargoed.
you're not even meant to know that exists.
What? No, what exists?
Nothing exists.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about that
yeah.
future episode then when it's out in the wild.
Yeah, there's a really interesting graphic on the S3 service page, actually, if you're interested, because there's 20 announcements over the years and 20 price drops and various other things. It's a really fascinating service.
Yeah, and I think just to add on it, with the vectors, the S3 vectors, I think when you weigh your option, when you're trying to choose a vector database, you'd be like, should I go to OpenSearch? Should I go to S3 vectors? And it has like the price is more affordable, the S3 tables is also like they've built on top of it. The features they've built on top of it are actually, the best thing about S3 is the availability and the price. People forget how cheap it is, So I think S3 vectors is gonna grow as the rate of how S3 will. Yeah.
Well, let's watch that, and let's watch what the next 20 years is going to bring for S3. And there are some pretty cool announcements coming down the line very soon, which I'm sure we will cover on a future episode. Well done, John, for keeping the terms of your NDA there, because breaching that on a public podcast is probably not a good idea. So,
Are we even allowed to talk about the fact that it exists? I don't know. I'm sure we probably
that what
can.
exists. We haven't said anything. Just an announcement about S3. It could be anything. Let's before we do put our foot in it, and I'm not talking about Tiger Balm. I'm talking about the breaching NDA type of putting your foot in it. Let's move along to our final article this week, which is an article on Reuters about how Microsoft is considering legal action over the recent $50 billion Amazon OpenAI cloud deal. This was originally reported on the FT, Financial Times, but I don't share those articles because they are paywalled and therefore people can't read them. So we've got the Reuters article, which is not paywalled, which is sharing that same news. So I think we covered the deal between Microsoft and OpenAI recently, which is another of these kind of, sorry, not Microsoft and OpenAI, Amazon and OpenAI recently. We covered that.
Yeah, it's hard to work out which is which.
Which is, I guess, is similar to the Nvidia deal that we've just spoken about. But this was a deal where I think OpenAI, Amazon's giving investment into OpenAI. OpenAI are going to buy lots of Trainium chips, Graviton chips, something like that.
Trainium, Graviton, something. Yeah.
And Microsoft have got a little bit upset about this because they think it breaches the terms of their kind of Azure only exclusivity with OpenAI as an earlier investor in OpenAI. So, thoughts on this one?
Yeah, so if you read it on Reuters, it's the dispute centers on whether OpenAI can offer Frontier, which is the stateful platform, without violating
the stateless,
their previous one, which was stateless. And the short version is, I don't know. I haven't read the agreements. I don't know. But this is one of those. I lambast AWS for these sorts of reactionary moves, and Amazon generally for these sorts of reactionary moves. They're setting the record straight sort of articles and the we're going to sue you sorts of things. And Microsoft is doing exactly the same thing. So I'm going to be equally just disappointed. Like, I am disappointed. Again, told you, millennials got the best brain rot. I am just disappointed. The whole thing is just annoying, right? It's Microsoft say that the approach isn't feasible, would violate the spirit, if not the letter, of their agreement, and companies blah, 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 and we know our contract. I think this is just a reaction to the sheer vast amounts of money being thrown around. And okay, legal types are expensive, but Microsoft and Amazon and OpenAI will have lots of these people on payroll because they just have functionally unlimited pots of money. And it seems to be the only people that can make money out of these things are the lawyers.
I'd love to be a fly on the wall in that battle of the lawyers, though, wouldn't you?
I'd love to have an AI generated summary of these calls, because I ain't reading that.
I don't know if you guys seen this part where a person familiar with Microsoft said, if Amazon and OpenAI want to take a bet on the creativity of their contractual lawyers, I would back us, not them. Ooh, that's being confident.
It's just going to come down to a war of words, you know.
Yeah.
And I wonder how many words they're going to be fighting over. Is it one sentence? Is it, you know, because that's what's going to boil down to. It's going to boil down to both sides' interpretation of one sentence, one word in the agreement that you know, could be interpreted either way, I guess, which is often the way these disputes go. But despite the fact that they'll be arguing over something tiny, it's probably going to go on for months, if not years, due to the massive sums of money involved, which I guess Microsoft hoped would come in their direction, and is now going in AWS's direction. But yeah, interesting to see if they actually go through with it, because I think this is just a threat right now, isn't it? I don't think any legal action. So they're considering legal action, or at least they were on the 18th of March. It's now the 24th of March, the date of recording. So it'll be interesting to see how this one progresses. Who are you guys backing in this? If you're betting men, who are you betting on here?
I don't know. None of them have funny names.
I think it's all. It depends. It's about time. You know, it was about time AWS came into that partnership with OpenAI. But when it comes to lawyers, Microsoft do have really good lawyers. But I don't. This guy, they will settle this behind closed doors. They're a big organization. They show us that they're enemies, but behind the scenes, all of these companies, they usually partner with each other, and
Of course they do. Yeah.
they'll come to the table and say, you know what, let's find an amicable way of sorting this out. You know,
Yeah.
I think Amazon, being a big company, before they went into that contract with OpenAI, they would have already. I'm not 100%. I'm 90% sure they would have gone through the previous contract with Microsoft, with OpenAI, and they would have made sure that they would have foreseen all these legal hoops before they actually took the deal or partnered with OpenAI. You know, I don't think they have really good lawyers. I don't think they would have just, you know, okay, let's sign and not check.
Oops, yeah, we forgot to read the contract. No, yeah, I don't think that would have happened. Yeah,
the terms and conditions.
It's a bit like being at the casino, isn't it? Shuffling chips around, except these are silicon chips and not plastic chips. And so I have some of my chips, you know.
Yeah,
I'm going to bet all my chips on Microsoft, or I'm going to bet them all on Amazon. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it pans out. And I'm sure if there are future articles covering it in the press, we'll cover it on a future episode of Logicast. But on that note, we have reached the end of our time for today's episode, which I think was season 5, episode 12 of Logicast. So it just remains for me to thank you, John, as always, for your insights and sharing your feet on the internet, which I thought was something you'd never do, although we still haven't actually seen them. But
no, and you never will see them
or
without
smell
paying.
them either, thankfully. But
without paying me.
Yeah, well, there's bound to be a market for that. There's a market for everything on the internet, isn't there? But anyway, and thank you again, Farah, as well, for joining us and sharing your insights and your community journey, which was fascinating and quite a coup with your getting Verna along to the community day in Kenya. So great to have you on. Sorry about the technical problems in the middle there, but I think we still got to hear quite a bit from you during today's episode. So really appreciate you sparing the time to join us and share your insights. So thank you for listening. That is all we have time for season 5, episode 12 of Logicast. If you've enjoyed it, please give us a like, give us a rating. If you want to see John testing all of the Apple reactions, I don't think he found any new ones, but you can see that on the Logicata YouTube channel. So don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. We are recording new episodes of Logicast weekly for you. So we will be back next week with another episode of Logicast and another guest from the AWS community. Until then, thank you very much for listening or watching. We'll see you again next time.
thank you, guys.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.